everybody. You're listening to Sit Down with Stand-Ups. I'm Ari Azizian, and my guest today is a very funny comedian. You may have seen him on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno, David Letterman, and The Late Late Show with Craig Ferguson. He's recorded a Comedy Central half-hour special, and his album Job Opening came out this year. I'm very lucky to have Michael Palascak on the show today. How are you, Michael?
Good. How are you?
Very good. We were just talking that you started in Second City.
Yeah, I took my parents moved to Chicago when I was in college, and I was just home for the summers. I didn't know anybody or anything, and my aunt had a friend who she went to college with that performed in Second City. And she told me about classes there, and so I just I started taking them during the summer when I was in school. Yeah.
So you were going to college, and at the same time you started improv.
Yeah. So I went to school in Ohio, but when I would be home for the summer, I would take like one or two classes.
Very cool.
Then when I finished, I just sort of finished up there.
So did you start improv before stand-up?
Yeah, for sure. When I was a freshman in college, I auditioned for like a sketch and improv show. So that's like the first comedy thing I'd ever done before.
So you had one on in your college too?
Yeah, they had an improv troupe called Don't Tell Anna.
That's an awesome name.
It is. Apparently, Anna was one of the founding members, and her mom. No, Anna was a mom of somebody who was a founding member, and she didn't want her to do it, so they couldn't tell her.
Don't tell her.
Well, I was never in that, but they did a sketch show called Toolbox where they did sketch and improv, and I did that my second semester of freshman year.
Sweet.
Yeah.
And then how long after it was around the same time where you got into stand-up too? Or?
I think so. I came home that summer, and I didn't really do any performing. I would like write stuff, but not even comedy. Like short stories or something. And then the next summer is when I found a book on stand-up at a bookstore, and I started going open mics.
What book was it?
It's called Stand-Up Comedy by Judy Carter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So you were an English major, you said, in your acting in college. And so did you think you were going to do stand-up? Was it like always like a idea kind of, or did it just spark through Second City? And
I think I didn't know I was going to do stand-up. I was undecided for the first 2 years of college. So I think by the time I chose to be an English major, I had started doing stand-up. And then I think what really made it seem like I would do that as a job was a couple of things. Like I had listened to the CD interview that Jerry Seinfeld did in the 80s on like laugh.com. Mm-hmm. And the way he talked about stand-up, he just made it seem like a really kind of achievable job. And then the other thing was I would audition for stuff around Chicago, and it was just hard to play, to get on stuff because you had auditions. So, and I knew stand-up, I could just show up and I could be bad and I was okay.
Right,
I'm gonna just keep going and get better.
Chicago's like a crazy comedy town. Like there's so much going on.
Yeah.
And is it competitive for stand-up as well, like in LA? Or
I think it was less competitive when I was there. Like there were good people doing it, but less. Like I think when I'd start out in the suburbs, and there was probably like 10 of us who were like really doing it a lot and good. And then in the city, I remember seeing an open mic, which was like the biggest open mic, and there's probably like 50 to 70 people that would just random person, including everybody that would show up that one night. And I think it's grown a lot since then.
That's crazy. That's like the Comedy Store here.
Like
so many people show up.
Yeah.
So when you graduated from college, did you go into full-time doing stand-up and improv? Yeah,
I didn't have a job. I sort of, I remember talking to my mom. It was funny, like, when I was in college, my dad was like, you need to major in something you need to get a job with. Right. And then I didn't do that. And then my mom would be like, well, it's okay. He'll just do whatever you want. And then, like, I got out of college, and my mom was like, well, you need to get something that you can get a job with. And I was like, wait, back there? She's like, well, you need to pay the bill. And then my dad would be like, no, he shouldn't go work at some job he doesn't want to do. This is what we invested money in college in, so we should keep doing it. So I was sort of lucky to have their support, and I just drove their car into the city and would do shows. And
nice.
And so I wasn't necessarily supporting myself, but it was taking up all my time. Yeah. It was full time in that sense. That's all I did.
That's so cool. I'm in the same boat right now. I just graduated and moved back into my parents. And it was so funny because you mentioned in your act where your mom was like telling you to go work at McDonald's. Yeah. My mom drives by the McDonald's by our house all the time. She's like, they're hiring. They have a sign. Like, you should totally do it.
That's funny. Yeah.
But so how often would you go in those like early days? Would you go like one or two spots a night, or?
Yeah, I remember. I think that first summer, there would be like a Wednesday and Thursday out in the suburbs by me, so I'd do those, and then I would probably try to do a Monday and Tuesday, and then if you could do a couple, like I was new to the idea of doing more than one in a night, but then I would see that people did that, so then I would just do that. And also I remember it being like, well, if I'm going to another show, then I don't have to stay at this one really long and like watch everyone. Like, and it was always like, well, at the last one I'll stay and watch people. So so it's sort of like that. So I would probably do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday and Saturday. If you got to host at a comedy club, I would get to work. Other than that, it would seem like you just sort of try to do guest spots or something. So probably like anywhere from like 4 to 7 times a week.
Okay, wow, yeah. Cool, yeah, I'm trying to do the same thing. Like, just go to a few every night. And it's, I don't know, like, in my head, like, it makes sense, like, going to every single one. But I'm like, I'm only doing 2 minutes at each place. I'm like, how long is it going to be until I can, like, really hone a 5-minute act?
Yeah. So I think LA is probably a little, because there's so many comedians, it's probably a little harder to get a lot more stage time.
In San Francisco, when I was up in college, it was so easy. You could just walk right into it. It was awesome. But how long do you think it was before you like really started to like, I guess, like find your voice or get a good sense of feeling on stage? I
remember I did something a little different. I finished classes at Second City. And then my friends and I did a sketch show at their student theater, and that was fun. And I just submitted for another one, and they didn't really. I didn't know if they would do it, but I just submitted for one to get a spot, and I got a spot. And so they didn't really want to do it, or I don't know if they didn't want to, but it wasn't necessarily like they were all available. So I just did a 1-person show, and it was about living home with your parents. It was like pursuing happiness.
Was that what it was called?
Yeah, it's called Pursuing Happiness. Cool. And then like underneath it was like a show about people who live at home or moved out of their parents' house, got a job, and got married, performed by a guy who didn't. It's kind of a long subtitle.
That's a great show.
but yeah, I would do sketches about people that had moved out, and then in between I would like sort of like do like stand-up type stuff in between. And I remember writing for that sort of helped me find my voice more, because I had these jokes about that, but I didn't know that. I think writing for like a 1-person show where it wasn't so heavy on like, oh, you have to get laughs right away, made me come up with like different jokes that ended up being able to get laughs. And I think so that was like a moment where it was sort of like, oh, this is how you can sort of be yourself more on stage.
Yeah. And
that was like 2 years in there.
2 years? Okay.
Well, I mean, 2 years after being out of college, like 2006 or whatever.
Yeah. Okay.
So 4 years, I guess, after doing my first set.
Yeah. And I love your material because it's like very like kind of biographical.
Oh yeah.
And it's like
it's also biographical.
Yeah, it's also biographical. Just wear it on your eyes. Yeah. It's biographical. And,
thanks.
Do you write every day? Because I feel like those jokes have to happen to you first. And do you wait until they happen, or do you just work on stuff every day?
I think when I started, I would always have like a little notebook, and then I would write down ideas as I had them. I don't think that's a really good thing that's easy to get away from, because like sometimes I'll just put it in my phone or whatever, but I don't do that as much anymore. Now especially with Twitter and Facebook, you just can sort of like throw it up there and then see what works.
Right.
I think like what I do every day, or try to on a consistent basis, is just like free write. Just sit down and write whatever's coming out of my head for like a set amount of like 30 minutes or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then when I fill up that notebook at the end of a month or 2 months, I'll go back and read it and try to find jokes and try to turn.
That's really cool, like method of doing.
Oh yeah, Tommy Johnigan was when I first started. He was like, "This is what I do. You should." I was like, "Okay."
Yeah,
so
that's awesome. Yeah. He's really funny too.
Yeah, no, he's really good.
I was talking to Brian Kiley last week, and he was telling me it's like amateurs wait to be inspired to write, and professionals write every day.
Yeah.
So after that, I was like, oh man, I gotta crank it out.
Like, well, yeah, I mean, especially when you write for Conan, like when you write for a TV show for however many years, you can't be like, well, I'm gonna go play some pool because I don't feel inspired. Yeah. And we're paying you. Yeah. I think also the quote I liked was "Good writers write," or "Writers write and good writers rewrite." And so I thought. I mean, just even now more, I sort of like have a joke that doesn't work, and I'll try to just sit and think about that joke and sort of free write stuff. Whereas before, I'd be like, okay, that's the joke, and then not do it anymore if it's not working.
Just leave it, yeah. I read that you did a showcase for NACA, and I didn't know about it. It's the National Association of Campus Activities.
Yeah.
I had no idea like what it was or anything. Do you have to perform for them, and then to be able to tour for colleges?
Yeah, NACA is what's
NACA.
Yeah.
Do they have like a big comedy show every year? Or?
Yeah, so there's NACA's like this thing, and it's not just it's just all sort of things that if you were a college student on a student activities board, you would book. So, and there's, I don't know, 5 or 6 regions. So there's like the regional ones and the national ones. So there's like 7 of them a year.
Okay.
And basically all the students that book things from that region come to this thing, and they see your 15 minutes. And then after your show, your agent or somebody, or maybe it's just you, will have a booth, and they'll come around and book you. So the whole idea is like they can book you, and then someone else in Arizona can book you, and someone else in Arizona. So it's like you can sort of line up.
Wow.
And
it's like drafting for the basket.
I know. It feels weird. And like I just sort of go, but then like some people have like giveaways, so everyone just runs to go get a shirt. I'm like, well, sorry, I just did my stuff. I need to make a shirt.
Yeah.
So the whole idea is like they get a discount on price, but you get all these shows in 1 week or 2 weeks. So I've submitted, and it's kind of like a lot of people submit to NACA. You can get colleges, because like my agent will sometimes just have schools that'll call them, or they'll call them, and I'll get a lot of I haven't done a NACA in a while, so most of my shows are non-NACA. I've also done APCA, which is a similar thing, but it's easier to get into. NACA is sort of a lot of people submit, and they only look at the first minute and a half, and then if they like that, they'll listen to the second minute and a half, then they want another 3 minutes to look at just in case they want it. And so it's sort of like, you made it to the last round. I'm like, okay, well, and then you're also competing against magicians and musicians and all other things that are entertainment. So yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah, so you don't have to do NACA to get colleges, but it helps your agent to book you. But sometimes you do a NACA and then no one books you right away either. So it's sort of like, well, that stinks. Yeah,
they run over to the free T-shirts.
Yeah.
And then how long was it after that, or after you started comedy, where you got on Letterman?
Okay, so my first time I went on stage was in 2002, and so I just went up twice that first summer, and then the next summer I went up more, and then 2004 is when I finished college and moved back home and started doing as much as I could, and then I was on Letterman in I think January 2011.
Oh wow!
So I guess almost,
that's really quick.
Yeah,
9 years,
9 years. Yeah,
that's so cool. Yeah. And I read that you worked with Eddie Brill on some of your material for like 2 years, right?
Yeah. So
and he's the booker for all the comics on the Letterman show. For people who don't.
Eddie he's a stand-up, so he would work the road, and he worked Zanies in Chicago, and he would do like a showcase before his week, so you could go in and show him your stuff. And it was right when I started to work Zanies a lot, and I didn't get on the showcase because there's only so many spots and whatever. But then I worked the next week at the club, and the manager was like, "Oh, you should definitely have been on that showcase." I'm sorry. I'm like, okay. Man, yeah. So I made a tape and I sent it to him, and then that began the process of me sort of like, I got to showcase him for him a couple times, and he was like a judge at a festival in Atlanta, and he would just give me notes. And what I always liked about it is the notes were always, whether or not I usually agreed with them, but even if I didn't, it was like, oh, this is his point of view on comedy, like, and it was great to hear that. It was very like, he started out in New York, so it's sort of like, oh, this is like very, I don't know, it's sort of like how sort of Dave maybe even is, like really realistic, and like how you would just be if you're talking to your friends. So
right.
Notes on that. Like I remember I had a joke where he was like I did like a voice of my mom or something, and he was like, you don't need that voice there. You're not making fun of her voice. You're just like pretending to be your mom, and that's not how you would do it if you were telling that story to your friend. He's like, it makes sense to do a voice here because she said something stupid, and you're like, well, like you're making fun of the way she said it, but you just shouldn't do a voice for now. And I was like, oh, that's good. And so I remember stuff like that would be really helpful. And then it was kind of funny because I worked with him on a set for 2, and then I got offered the Tonight Show before I got Letterman, so I did the Tonight Show first. And then he was doing a radio interview in Chicago, and he was like, oh, Michael Palascak wasn't going to do it, but they did the Tonight Show, so he's not going to do it anymore. I was like, oh, that sucks. And then...
Wait, what? So he saw you on the Tonight Show, and
I guess...
he didn't think that you wanted to do Letterman?
Well, he was upset because I just did the other one first, but a couple months before said, well, we'll get you on when you're ready. So, right. I've never been on TV like that before, so it's not like I'm going to turn it down if I get something else. So then I came around where the Tonight Show people were so supportive, and they're like, well, send us another set when you want to do it again. And so I did, and they liked that set. And so we emailed Eddie and was like, I would really like to do Letterman before I do this show again. And so I got to do Letterman again, and then I did never get to do Tonight Show again. And then Eddie doesn't book the show anymore, so I don't get to do Letterman. I haven't done Letterman.
But that's so cool that he would give you like little suggestions and really analyze your material. Like, I feel like, does he analyze it on a perspective like he knows what like America likes, because he puts on these people in front of all, or does he do it on like Dave's? Like, what is Dave like? Or
I think he, at the beginning especially, he looks less at the material and more just like how you're approaching everything as a stand-up. Like, I remember one of the early things he said was like a lack of like how there should be some sort of like connection and passion to what you're talking about. Like, you don't want to be huge, but like you should be interested in what you're talking about. And I think starting out, it's easy to be like, oh, this is how I really am, so I'm just gonna, and I've done these jokes 1,000 times or whatever. So it's more of like performance type stuff. And well, at least for me, because I think most of my material was okay for what they were looking for. At least I had enough of it. And I think it's not necessarily what America wants, just what Dave would think was good stand-up, or what Eddie thinks is good stand-up.
Yeah.
Like, I think when you go into that show, that studio audience is so like supportive and excited that they're gonna enjoy it, and so they just want to keep giving them what they think they would enjoy, which is just sort of good stand-up, not necessarily. Like,
that's so cool.
I think he had like some things where there was like stuff about cereal or like kid type stuff where he was like, well, you're not Dave doesn't like you talking about like being a kid, like you're a little kid anymore, like as an adult, like that sort of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And then like Dave also doesn't want you to make fun of anybody who's like lower than you. Like, I had a joke about China, and my manager told me that it probably wouldn't go because he doesn't like making fun of people who can't sort of defend themselves or whatever.
Wow, yeah.
Which is kind of noble.
Yeah, he's a classic guy.
Yeah.
That's so funny. He doesn't like kid stuff, and I feel like his early stand-up, he had a joke about like a mint being like dried at the bottom of his sink when he's brushing his teeth.
Yeah.
There was like a thing of toothpaste, and he'd take it out and like give it as a mint to people.
I think maybe it was less of Dave not liking it and Eddie being like, well, this is something I don't think Dave will like or whatever.
That's so cool though, to just get all that information before you get, so you were very comfortable, I imagine, when you went out to do the taping, right?
For sure. That was the most fun taping, especially because they shoot it in New York in like a theater, so it's just like you're doing a set in a theater. It doesn't feel like a TV show at all. And they have it. What's great about that show, like my favorite part about anything, well, not my favorite part, but my favorite part comparable to other shows, is that you don't worry about time. Like, Eddie times your set the night before, and he's timed it before, and then you just go out and do it until it's done.
Oh,
Whereas
cool.
like other shows, it's like you're getting a light at like 3.5 minutes, or they're holding up cards like 1 minute left, 1.5 minutes left. One of the show, there's like a red clock over here, and it's like once it gets to this time, you have like a 30-second window where you have to wrap it up, otherwise it's bad news, and that's all they tell you. That's really bad if you go way over. It's really black. Yeah, it's really bad if you go under, but it's really bad. Like, there's two reallys if you go under, and only one really if you go.
That's so crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And I love your story of how you got to do Craig Ferguson's show.
Oh yeah,
because you said you opened for him in Vegas, right?
No, I was in Hammond, Indiana at a casino.
Oh, okay.
And what's cool about Craig, what I've heard, I was just opening up for him because I was in Chicago and it worked out. But like when he works different towns, sometimes he'll just go to the club in that town and just watch the show and then tell someone that they can be on his show, like if he likes their stuff. So he's like had a couple of different people on his show who would just like, and that, I think is really cool that like that's how he does that sometimes. And so I was opening up for Craig, and I was just in the green room, and he was talking to me before, and he's been really nice. And I mentioned how I live near where he tapes, and I went to a taping, and it was really fun, and I told him I liked it, and he was like, "Oh, do you want to come do the show?" And I was like, "Oh, yes,
totally,
yeah." So, and he hadn't even seen my set yet, so I'm sure he would have been like, "Just joking," if he didn't like it. But and then when we were walking up to go do the show, he's a big crowd because that's probably like over 1,000 people or whatever. He's like, Michael, this is like Eminem, like lose yourself, like you got mom's spaghetti. Like, I was like, oh, that's so cool though.
He's so funny. I love that guy. I love that he really is into comics, because I feel like a lot of those late shows, that's what it's for, It's like discover comedians, and sometimes I feel like they forget. I feel like Jay could have had more comedians on. And
I think I know sometimes it's a network thing. Like I heard with Kimmel, if they get a band on, they make like a lot of money because Bud Light has their stage that they use. So like that's why they don't have comedians on, because it's like 40 grand or something, 20 grand. I'm like, well, I understand. I don't know if I'm worth that. Yeah. But maybe I am.
You should be the first comedian that plays on that giant stage.
Yeah, I'll just do that thing. Just put me on the big stage.
That'd be so sweet.
Yeah.
So this all kind of happened in a pretty close amount of time, right? It's like Tonight Show, Letterman, and all within like a couple years, maybe.
Yeah. So I did the Tonight Show in July of 2010, and then Letterman was January 2011. And then I did Ferguson, I guess, a year and a half after that. So.
Wow. And then like right after that was the Comedy Central half hour?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Like all together, that's like a whole like album.
Yeah,
like,
I know.
how much material did you have up to that point? Like,
I mean, I think so. Leno was like, "This was my best, whatever." Plus, like 2 jokes that I wrote. A joke I wrote about Priuses dying or whatever. It was contemporary at the time. I said it sucks. Something about how Priuses didn't stop; they all got recalled or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then I made a reference to how, like, when I was a kid and I learned about World War II, I always thought that you taught because people were so, like, kamikaze pilots were so vicious and violent and they were fighting for the country, and I was like, well, maybe Japan's just bad at making breaks. And that was my Tonight Show debut opener. So I had those 4 minutes, and then the Letterman 4 minutes, and then Ferguson 4 minutes. So that was like 12. And then I did my half hour, and they let you you can't do the same stuff in between the shows, but Comedy Central, as long as you don't do what you did on like Gotham, you can do that.
Okay.
But you do over that. I probably did like 35, and they pretty much cut out all the stuff that I did on Ferguson and Letterman and Tonight Show.
Oh, really?
So it's mostly just all like new stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
They edited
like 40
it
minutes.
kind of around it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. 40, 45 minutes total material.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is all like a couple years ago, and then this year you just released your album.
Yeah.
That's so sweet. That's like 2 hours of jokes.
Yeah, well, I hadn't had an album up to that point, so it had some stuff from those shows too, and then some newer stuff. So.
And it's such an awesome album. I love it.
Oh, you listen? Thanks.
To it, yeah, many times. And
thank you.
I really just, like I said before, I love how it's like I know that all this stuff sort of happened to you, and it's like true, and it's really great. And you're also a clean comic, which I love too. Was that like a conscious choice from the beginning, or did you try like other styles first?
I think when I was a kid, my parents were always like strict, and I wasn't allowed to swear, and I was afraid of them, so I didn't. And then like you get older, and you're like, oh, in high school, like I tried swearing. I remember I was at a party one time, and like stupid high school party, and I tried swearing. Like, no, I didn't tell anybody I was trying swearing, but I was like, I'm gonna say some words today, and it just felt weird. So I was like, well, that doesn't make sense for me. And then when I started doing stand up, I always wanted to do TV, so I didn't want to do a joke and then not be able to do that joke on TV. And also I always wanted to work, and I knew that I could work in front of anybody if I was clean. And I think maybe the biggest thing was when I heard Seinfeld say how when he decided to not swear anymore was when he realized that it made the joke better if you swore, and then the joke didn't work when he didn't swear, and I didn't understand that at the time, but he was just like, it makes your joke writing better if you don't swear, because then you have to get a laugh. So I was like, I'll just do that. Yeah. So I think maybe that was like one of my good decisions in my 20s. Like, this is like a good decision right now. Yeah. And so it was that from the beginning. But I did have like a couple jokes that I swore because I felt like I had to, and it wasn't like I remember one of my friends told me, it was like, because he didn't swear, and he was like, that's like one of the smartest jokes where you say the F word ever. It's like something about how R-rated movies or whatever, and I was just sort of like quoting an R-rated movie. But yeah, and I think it was funny when I started out because my mom and dad would come to my shows, and so I think maybe that influenced it a little bit. But at the same time, I had jokes that my mom didn't like, and she'd be like, Michael, I don't think you should do this joke. I'm like, you're crazy. You're being crazy right now. I hate it.
What was that like living with your parents? Would you try like jokes on your mom?
Oh yeah, so it's
because I do that, and like my mom is just like, that's dumb, like I don't get it. Aww. So sometimes I'll try to like mask her, be like, Chris Rock said this, and then she'll laugh, be like, no, I wrote that. She's like, it's not that funny.
That's funny. I remember doing that at the dinner table one time where I found, if you'd be like, I heard this joke, and then you do it, then if people don't laugh. I remember I tried a joke one time where I said that, or I told people that I did that, and then I went on stage, and then they would come to my show, and they're like, Michael, why are you stealing all these jokes? But I would tell my mom jokes, and she'd either be like, try to think it out, and then I was like, okay, that's not funny. Or I knew it was funny. She's like, that's cute.
I get that a lot.
Because like, okay, you don't want to laugh right now, but
I don't know what to do with that.
Yeah, I'll take it. I'll try it out and see if other people think it's cute.
Yeah. Cute is the best response a mom can give for comedy.
Yeah. And I always felt, even though it was weird responses or whatever, that my mom was someone who I could just say whatever around in that context. And like, even if I did offend her or whatever, it was like, okay, because I don't know, it was easy to do that because she was my mom. It didn't matter. Like friends even or whatever, it sort of could be, I don't want them to laugh because they have to or try to help out or something, and be like, yeah. Like I got in a fight with my girlfriend one time because she was like, "Oh yeah, you should do that or don't." I'm like, "No, you don't get to decide what I do and don't do. I'm just asking you whether you should laugh or not laugh."
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like when you do it with your friends, they like always laugh even if it's not funny.
Yeah, like,
I think I'm glad that we both have honest moms who are like,
my mom's very honest. Yeah, I remember my brother was in college and he came home when I was home one time, and I was like, I was leaving for a show, and I was like, "How do I look?" And my mom was like, "Okay, that looks good." And my brother would be like, "Well, she'd always say that." And she's like, "No, I don't always say that ever."
So funny. Do you feel like it was hard to do improv and stand up at the same time? Because I feel like in improv you like don't want to be in your head at all, and then stand up you're always like thinking about stuff and analyzing things.
I think like in that sense, the in your head part, I think improv, yeah, for sure you want to be in the moment. I feel like if I could bring that to stand up, it's also really good to sort of like listen. I remember I just quote Seinfeld all the time. Like he said, like it's just like a conversation with the audience. So I think in that point, it is really good to listen. Okay, they're laughing at a good point here. I can go to the next part,
right?
Which I think is, and it makes stand up more fun to just sort of like do. I think it was hard to do both in the sense that just time wise, it's like I was going to improv class and then I would go to an open mic, and everyone in my improv class would go hang out, and I felt like, oh, I'm missing out on that fun part, or whatever,
right,
or like,
yeah.
or they're going to a show. So I felt like I think I made it work and it was fun, but I think it was definitely, I'm really glad I did both, and I think it helped out a lot now, especially being in LA for like auditions and stuff, to be like, oh, well, I've done some sort of acting before,
right?
And I've also have a way that industry can come see me. That's what's great about stand up in LA, is like you can be like, people can be like, oh, that's what he does. It's easy to see that. I'm sure improv can do that too. I just, stand up is like, these are my jokes, and whatever.
That's what I love about stand up. I feel like as long as you keep working, you always have a job.
Yeah.
Like where improv, I feel like it's hard to do an improv show on like a Monday night.
Like,
nobody's gonna want to see that.
Yeah, I totally like that about stand up, is you're always building something. I think the cool thing about improv though is that you can really hone that more, maybe like the acting and sort of listening and writing and stuff, but maybe not. Maybe it's the same. Yeah.
Very cool. And so when you came out to LA, did you want to do more like acting stuff, and are you auditioning currently for like a lot of things, or like where do you see, like, let's say in 10 years, do you want to keep being a stand-up, or do you want to be like in a movie or direct?
I remember when I started, like in the early years, one of my friends was like, I'm just doing stand-up, and then that's all I want to do, and if I get that stuff, then that's great. And I remember looking at him like, oh, I just want to do this until I get a TV show or a movie, and then stop doing it forever. And I think I said that, but I think I love being able to work at it all the time, and it has been the most consistent thing. Like even when starting out, when I wouldn't get cast at a sketch show, I was like, well, I'm going to go do the road. Then like it wasn't a big deal. So I don't know, like now, I don't think I've ever been a good enough actor to have to make that decision yet.
Yeah.
Like, but maybe I will. Like I'm taking acting classes, so maybe someday I'll have to make that choice, and I think that'll be fun to do that. I think like the other weird part about being in LA is like, no one wants you to make that choice. Like people will be like, you should go on the road, but you also be back here for this audition and also have a whatever. And like, oh, you want me to do everything? And like, well, I was
I'm trying my best.
So I think like at 10 years, I would love to have like some acting credits and be able to sort of maybe have, when I go on the road, have people who come to see my show a lot. So if that's because they love my stand-up, or if that's because like I had like a TV show that people loved or whatever, like either one would be
very cool.
Great. Or maybe it's from this podcast. Like,
no, I think maybe
this is gonna up
like
my numbers in the clubs.
I'll try to get it out as much as possible.
No, I'm not gonna put that on you, but I mean, it would be great.
Maybe
hit some bonuses.
What was it like? Like, how old were you when you first started going out on the road?
Okay, so 2004 was when I was finishing college, and I would start to like host at Riddle's Comedy Club, which was right by my house. So that's not really the road, but I think I think it was like October of that year. I think it was that soon, 2004. So I was like 22, just sort of like going and hosting in Milwaukee, and then Appleton was maybe like Appleton, Wisconsin was like maybe 6 months later. So I think I was like 22 when I would start hosting at clubs, and then that's kind of like sporadically.
Sweet, yeah,
when I could.
And what's the road like nowadays? Like for you, do comics like all go out together on the road, or is it kind of like a solo?
Yeah, I think usually it's fun if you get to work with somebody. Sometimes like they'll be like, oh, you're gonna open for this person, or it's gonna be this show. But normally it's like I go to a club, or I go to a college for a day and then I leave or whatever that next day. Or I go to a club on a Wednesday or Thursday and I'm there for a couple days. And then that's it. You just sort of hang out during the day or work during the night and stuff, and then go to your show, and then do whatever you do at night.
Cool. Yeah. I always wondered, like, what do you do? It
is kind of hard. I think when I started out, if I were to go back, maybe I felt like this pressure to sort of hang out with people because I was like, I was a nice person, and I didn't not want to. So I always wanted to work more. Like I always loved writing. So I think it was probably good that I hung out with people, but I think I might have been more like focused on like, okay, well, I'm going to write these nights and then hang out these nights, because it's sort of hard because you're working with people who work at the club and they want to go out and whatever, but you still want to have your own vision. So I think now I just sort of do whatever I want. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to go back and not do anything. Or I'm like, oh yeah, that'd be fun to hang out one night or whatever. I think my advice would be find a reason, or if you want to work, if you want to go out, do whatever. Unless like the owners are taking you out. Like there's one club where like there's two girls that sort of work, and they want to go out the first night, so you go out and it's fun or whatever. Then after that, it's a busy weekend. But normally when I do clubs, I'll like be like, oh, I have stuff to do the first couple nights, and then Saturday people are gonna go do something. I'm like, oh, this is fun. Yeah. Because then it's like I felt like I worked during the day.
Right. Yeah. That's so cool. Yeah, I had no idea. It was like that.
Yeah. Well, there's a story that I heard that like Judd Apatow was on the road, and there's a like old comedian that they're going out. He's going out. And he's like, you want to come? And he's like, oh, I gotta work on my screenplay. He's like, oh, well, good luck with that. And then, oh yeah, he did. He took that.
Yeah. I guess working hard to
I think there is like a sense that I wish I would have had more of like what I'm doing is okay, and it's okay to sort of really focus on that and do it more and not feel this pressure, and then go out with the people that can change your life. Like if you're on the road in the Midwest, with like those people aren't necessarily going to be able to help you with your goals in LA or New York. But if you're like in LA after a show and the producer wants to hang out, then it's like, oh yeah, this person could help me. It's good to know this person. So I think it's good to make choices like that.
Very cool.
Yeah,
that's great advice. Yeah. Well, thank you very much, and I totally look up to you because you write and you're acting and you're doing stand-up. I think that's so cool, and it's what I want to hopefully do one day.
Oh, so, I look up to you. You got your whole feature ahead of you, and you got a podcast already.
Thank you so much. Thank you for letting me interview. And
of course.
You'll be at the West Side Comedy Theater December 7th?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. And you should be on December 11th, right?
December 11th. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah,
I'm going to try and go, and everybody should try and go and see him. He's a great guy, and you're doing Comics Unleashed tomorrow, too?
Yeah.
That's going to be awesome.
How'd you know that?
I looked at your schedule.
Oh, really?
The one in your book in your closet right here.
Oh, nice.
Not online, no.
No, I'm taping that tomorrow, so that'll be airing at some point.
Sweet. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
It was great talking to you.
Yeah, great talking to you.
Thank you.